Hi everyone, my name's Steph.
I'm Cristina.
And I'm Maxine.
And today we'll be talking to you about statistics and probability. However, we've chosen a subcategory within statistics and probability, and that is representing data into graphs and interpreting it. The teaching sequence for this starts at foundation level, which is answering yes or no questions to collect the data. Year 1, representing data with objects and drawings. Year 2, checking and classifying data and creating displays using lists, tables, picture graphs, and also able to interpret them. Year 3, beginning the use of digital technology and interpret and comparing data. Year 4, creating picture graphs and understanding that one picture can represent many data values. Evaluate the effectiveness of different displays and illustrating data features including variability. And Year 5, describe and interpret different data sets in context. And Year 6, interpret secondary data representing digital media and elsewhere. Statistics and probability are taught separately to begin with, however are used together later on in high school. For this activity, we will be focusing on Year 4, and the learning objectives for this level are select and trial methods of data collection, including survey questions and recording sheets. This includes comparing the effectiveness of different methods of collecting data and then choosing the best one. Construct suitable data displays with and without the use of digital technologies from given or collected data. This includes tables, column graphs, and picture graphs, where one picture can represent many data values, and exploring ways of representing data and showing the results of investigation. They will be able to evaluate the effectiveness of different displays featuring illustrations including variability. This is interpreting data representations from the media in which symbols represent more than one data value. Representing data in a diagram is to enhance the understanding of the data. The question to be asked in each situation is, what kind of representation would help you to make sense of the given data? However, it is important that students learn to decide what might be the most appropriate format to present their data. The aim of the activity is to look at a variety of ways to represent data and to compare these for the best representation of the data given. The unit will look at pictograms, bar charts, histograms, pie charts, and also tallying. At the end of this activity, students should be able to organise their data, read and interpret displays, construct appropriate displays of data, and then justify the choice.
In order for students to successfully complete the learning activity, students will need to obtain a significant amount of prior knowledge. In reference to OSVALs, students will need to have the ability to collect and organise data into categories. In addition, students will need to be able to collect, check and classify data and create displays using lists, tables, picture graphs and simple column graphs with or without the use of digital technologies. In addition to this point, students will need to be able to interpret the data displayed in a variety of graphs. Students need to have the ability to identify a question of interest based on one categorical variable, as well as gather data relevant to this question.
So the activity that I've chosen for this lesson based on statistics is about the appropriateness of graphs for data. So I'll give you a bit of a description of the activity first. So at the beginning, do a brainstorm, make a chart with your students of survey questions that they can ask themselves in order to collect data for the second part of the activity. So questions can be whether they're a boy or girl, their height, their shoe size, whether they like pop or rock music, their birth month, their amount of brothers and sisters, and the number of pets that they have. So once you've made a list of questions like the ones I've just mentioned, you can have all of your students answer these questions on a sheet of paper, have a bit of a chat about the answers that they've given, and then put all the answers up in a place that everybody can see them. So this can be your IWB or your normal whiteboard, and group all the answers with the questions. The next part of the activity is where the appropriateness of graph selection comes in. So now that the students have completed the surveys and that they can all see each other's answers, ask them to create questions that they'd like to answer about this data. So examples of questions are which month is the most popular birth month, or which season is the most popular for birthdays, and things like how many people have size 5 shoes in the class. Given that we know children tend to learn when they're able to relate the work back to themselves, this gives them that option and it allows them to choose a category that they're most interested in to work on. And hopefully this means you'll get the best work out of them. So after the question selections and discussions, they will then be included in a discussion of graph types and ones that are more appropriate for different sets of data. So make a big list of these, ask them why they think that these are more appropriate than others, maybe write all these answers up. So after this you can send them back to their tables for them to complete a graph on a specific data set that they've chosen. So one might have chosen to make a graph on the amount, the number of pets that each student has. Once they've completed the drawing section of the task, which should look like this, this is one that I've prepared earlier. It's a pie chart of the most popular birth months, so you can see all the months of the year in the pie, and you can see that I've put labels around the summer section, the autumn section, the winter and the spring section. So you can easily see that this chart shows that January and June have the most birthdays, and that the winter section of the seasons has the most birthdays in it. So once they've made a graph like that, they can write a few sentences about what their graph shows and what it answers, like the question that it answers. Yeah, so that's the activity. As Steph mentioned earlier, the lesson objective has been pulled straight from the Level 4 AusVals and states that students should be able to construct suitable data displays with or without the use of digital technologies from given or collected data. And the graphs can include tables, column graphs, picture graphs, histograms, bar charts, tallies. We believe that this activity will incorporate most parts of this objective as it teaches students how to collect data, how to pose questions about the data, and graph it in a way that is suitable for that specific set of data. Obviously the students will need prior knowledge, as Cristina mentioned, and the sorts of prior knowledge they will need is along the lines of recognising several types of graphs, being able to collect data and create graphs with this data. The new understandings they will hopefully achieve after this lesson, based on graph appropriateness, is how to choose the right graph for the right set of data and how to recognise a graph that doesn't suit the data. Variations of this activity for students who are struggling, or if your whole class may be struggling with the graphs topic, is to come up with a data question as a whole class for everybody to answer. And then either draw up a graph to map this data as a whole class, or you can have each student draw up the same type of graph for that set of data. But before you send them back to do the actual graphing, have a bit of a chat with them about which graph will be appropriate for the data that you've chosen, to make sure that they understand the differences between them all. For students that may find this task too simple, they can be challenged by making inferences from the graphs and possibly comparing two sets of data, provided that another class has done this activity. So if another class has done it, they can go and get their data from all the questions that they've answered and compare the graph that they've made with the data from the other class, to see the similarities and differences between that. I think that's all we have. The misconceptions. We only managed to come up with one misconception, which was that bar charts and histograms look very similar, but the way they're constructed represents data very differently. So if they've chosen to do a histogram, make sure that they've done a histogram and not a bar chart. It might be useful to teach them the differences between these because they represent data so differently, and if they've done the wrong one but mean it to be the other, they won't be showing their data correctly. I think now that's all we have. Yep, thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.